You're back on our screens anyway with Aaron Eckhart in Chief of Station. What attracted you to the script?
Initially, it was doing something that was a little bit out of my safe zone. I've not worked in the espionage genre before, and it was something that I had never sort of really got my sort of head around. So it was a challenge. It was something rather cool. I love those movies. There's a lot of fantastic ones being made, so it's a terrifying genre to get into. They've made the Mission Impossible. James Bond has done everything imaginable. And then if you go even further back, you've got things like The Spy Who Came In From the Cold with Richard Burton and all of the John le Carre kind of Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy type thing. So it's, you're treading in ground that's not very fertile anymore. And so it's a huge challenge. And how do you do that? And I thought that was really rather cool. It was a fun something to have to raise my game for. So I enjoyed, I look at each project as a way to have a little bit of an adventure myself. No one wants to do the same thing twice. You don't want to reinvent. You don't want to continuously sort of be doing what you've done before. And so this sort of offered a opportunity for something different.
And working with Aaron as well must have been unreal because Aaron is kind of taken over like sort of the A-movie market at the minute, isn't he?
Unfortunately, yeah. He was associated with huge A movies. Steven Soderbergh, Oliver Stone, Christopher Nolan, enormous films that won awards and accolades and got massive releases. But then for whatever reason, people fall out of favor or things just don't quite, there's really nothing but luck when it's at that level, and you watch, unless you absolutely make a complete error in this day and age and get cancelled, which he didn't. It's anyone's guess what happened, and he started to do some of the smaller ones, which is unfortunate because the budgets are lower, the directors are sometimes not as proficient, and certainly the scripts are not as well developed in many cases. So it's a problematic road. So you don't want to be there very long, as an actor. I don't think it's anything that he would be proud of. But what he should be proud of is that he brings his A game. He puts his entire heart and soul and physical person behind these characters, and for that I don't think he's going to be in these B movies for long. I think it'll be a chance for him to get pictures like this one and others that are coming will be a chance to get back onto the top of the heap again. It is a tricky business, it's unpredictable, but I was lucky to have him on this. When I signed on to the film, it was Alec Baldwin was the lead actor,
Really?
and I developed the film with him in mind. There was no action to speak of. It was the script was similar, but it was a very different setup. Then he had his trial coming up, and the bond company that insures the film said, we can't bond the film where the lead actor may be subpoenaed for 5 days or 7 days. You got 5 weeks shooting, and he leaves for potentially 2 weeks because it's in Budapest, which is a long way to travel. There's no way they could bond it. So 2 weeks before filming, we found out we had to replace our leading man. And then we got Aaron, which was the most wonderful, bit of luck imaginable. Because for me, I come from an action background, and that's something that I kept looking at all these locations in Hungary, and I'm like, oh man, if only we could do a car chase here. Oh man, if only we could do a shootout here. But we can't do it because that's not in the script. And when we got Aaron, I went to the producers and said, you've got to rethink this a little bit and put a slightly different spin on it, because not only is he a phenomenal actor with the dialogue and all of that sort of character stuff, but he's also very capable of doing this. So the only real ghost that carried across on that level was the fact that when it was Alec, I had been told, do not have him shooting a gun in the movie. We don't want him firing, for obvious political and sensible reasons, sensitive reasons. I'm sorry, not sensible. They didn't want him to have a to shoot a pistol. They didn't want the poster to be, the classic kind of movie poster with the gun. They said, please, whatever you do, make sure we avoid that. And when I reconfigured the script for Aaron, I thought, you know what? Something that would be quite interesting is to not have our leading man shoot a gun. And so I kept that element. And so the only time you see him actually touch a gun is he grabs a gun, unloads it, hits the guy in the neck with it, and continues. And I talked to a few people after the screening we had yesterday, And no one actually realized that wasn't the case. So I'm quite proud of that. It's just a fun thing because it's a very easy cliche when you make an action movie. You have your leading man pick up a machine gun or a rocket launcher or another pistol or something and shoot his way out of that problem, which in truth is one of the, it's not really that easy to do. Otherwise criminals would be doing it all the time. It's very difficult. So to have him a little bit more cerebral and more agile with his intellect, I thought was quite fun, and so that's one element of this that stayed, and I'm very proud of, the way it was pulled off.
And what was good as well is when obviously you get these action scenes and Aaron is going hand to hand with people, it looks like Aaron on the majority of the fight work himself.
Yeah, 100%, very, very physical. Both he and Alex Pettifer were competing by the end of this for what they could do and how little their stunt double could work, which, stunt doubles didn't mind. They were at the craft service table and enjoying life. But it was kept obviously very safe because, I've done this for a long time, so I'm watching from what I'm watching. But honestly, they did a tremendous amount themselves. I think some of the driving that was extraordinarily hairy, they had doubles for, but for the majority of the driving, they begged me. They came to me to my trailer and knocked on the door and said, "Please, please let us do it wherever we can." But Alex is a trained race car driver. Aaron has obviously done a tremendous amount. It was terrifying being in the vehicle with him. Everything's locked down. There's a roll cage inside, and obviously we're in a safe area. But it's very, very fast and really, really fun to do. And you don't get the chance to do that often. And so it's fun to watch for that reason. If no other reason, go see it for seeing actors really getting involved with the physical stuff. It was a blast.
And a highlight as well was Daniel Bernhardt plays a villain in it. As people would know him from obviously like Bloodsport and John Wick, which is more recent. But I'm gonna add my hand here and say he helped with fight scenes, especially his and Aaron's.
Well, Daniel's someone I met during COVID. I made a film during COVID where I needed an actor who could speak English, French, and German, and really wasn't hiring him for his martial arts prowess at all. And I brought him on that. I became very, very good friends with him. I like his discipline and his humility because I've obviously known about him. I was trying to become a director in the 1990s when he was a superstar in that world, martial arts. He was making sequels to all of the Van Damme films, and he was playing the lead role. And in a small little pie, he was the top. He was the king of that. And so
Yeah,
I was very, very well aware of who he was, but I'd sort of forgotten him for a while until I visited my friend Garrett Warren, who was prepping Logan, is it Logan, the most recent one. And
yeah.
I went and watched them putting this fight scene together, with the previs. And I said, "Is that Daniel Bernhardt doubling Hugh Jackman?" And they said, "Yeah, he's awesome." Introduced, and so I met him. I met him again, as a stuntman, and he looks fantastic, but he moves like a ballerina. Just it's incredible the ability for a man his size. He's 200 plus pounds of muscle, 6'4" or whatever, and can move like a young 20-year-old gymnast. It's amazing. So you put him in, and it's brilliant. And then as I talked to him more, I realized he was working with 8711 and Chad Stahelski and David Leach, and works out with them every day there at 6 a.m. in the morning. They do an hour's martial arts and all that kind of stuff. And they're doing all of the top movies that are coming out. They train these guys for months and months in advance and work it all out. And Daniel's an active part of that. He's also training actors now as well and getting them better and working in choreography with those guys. So on Chief of Station, I put him in charge of training the actors, but also choreographing and helping the Hungarian stuntmen who hadn't really delved that deeply into martial arts come up with the fights and do it. We didn't obviously have as much time as the guys at 8711 do, but I think we got very, very lucky with Daniel. I thought the fights were realistic, but still visceral. Still contained enough sort of flamboyant stuff that it will appeal to the martial arts fans. But I wanted it to feel more real
Yeah,
than
it's sort of like pretty and like you can feel each toe sort of thing.
Yeah, yeah. There's a I've done all the others. I've worked with Tony Jaa and Iko Uwais and multiple films of Scott, and I adore those guys. But the fight scenes are not realistic. I mean, they're just not. And the fans that love that don't mind. They enjoy that. They love it. And if you're purely making films for the martial arts fans, then those films are perfect. But if you're wanting to branch out and make films that the regular movie audiences are going to enjoy, there has to be more of an element of realism. You can't have guys doing, hurricane kicks in an elevator or 720s, these, which are wonderful, and I love watching that as much as the next film buff, action buff. But on this film, the mandate, the benchmark was very much realism, trained individuals. I think we went a little bit far in some of the fights, but you know what? That's okay. It's a move in. I'm very proud of what they did, and as you have pointed out, Aaron was in the thick of it all, with Daniel, and the fight on the boat. I think it's really good. I really enjoyed it. I hadn't seen it on the big screen until Friday, and it was really. I thought they both kicked ass.
Yeah, definitely. It was one of the highlights. And then car scene at the end, which you were mentioning driving earlier, it was pretty cool too. I wasn't expecting finale to end with like a car chase. And then I have to say, Aaron Eckhart's son in it, Nick, is the best moment of the movie.
Right.
Without spoiling anything, but you know what I'm on about, right?
Yeah, where he takes out Daniel. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. It's the final chapter on that fellow. Yeah, no, it was fun. It was, it was great to work with the Hungarian stunt team who stepped up to the plate, because, as I say, the realization that we had Aaron on board as the lead actor was about 10 days before start of principal photography. He flew out and landed within 48 hours of making that deal. So you've got less than 2 weeks, and I'm changing the script every day, writing. I've gone and said, look, this fantastic place we saw, this bauxite factory that looks like it's out of a science fiction movie. It's where they built Russian submarines during the Cold War. So there's machine gun emplacements all over the place, because aluminum it's very close to where they make the aluminum. The aluminum goes straight to the plant. This fantastic location. We should make a car chase here, and they're all looking at me with shock. And the stunt coordinator is very excited. He's like, yeah. And so we started talking about how we could do it, and you work that quickly. You need people who are inherently professional and are able to step up and don't panic, and we're still going to keep it safe, but have come up with imaginative and creative solutions, and it was fantastic. I think it really paid off. But I mean, you really don't want to be prepping that stuff that quickly if in an ideal situation. But I'm very proud of it. It's the first time I've put one in one of my movies, and I really enjoyed it. I think I'll do more. The key for me was going backwards, because if you rely on visual effects, and there's a tool called the Russian arm, which is a car with a big boom arm on it, and the camera flies around, and you can make the other vehicles look like they're going quicker by spinning the camera past them. And I wanted to avoid all of that crap. It's gimmick stuff, and it's made by people that don't really understand vehicles and how exciting they can be just left alone. And what I did learn from my days as a second unit director and a stuntman working with some of the very best in the game was, if you bolt the camera to the cars and let that vibration come in, and give the audience a perspective that is as close as possible to the person actually driving the vehicle, as opposed to these wombat, visual effect gamer angles, which are nice and they look great on a director's reel, but they don't bring the audience into the film in the same visceral manner. So we did it that way, but it's just very time consuming and takes some energy and effort. But I think the guys pulled it off, and I love it. I'm very proud of it.
But after like the whole sort of hype of Chief of Station has sort of gone down, what's next for you? I had seen a couple of credits of yours, but I don't know if there anything that is sort of concrete at the minute. There was Lions Den, Raiders, and Scar, I think it was called.
Right, interesting. Yeah, I don't go on IMDb very very much. So a lot of people mention these wonderful plans that I've never heard of. Some of them I've heard of, some of them I know about. Some of them ring a distant memory because they're ghosts of something that some hopeful producer stuck up there a few years ago. For me, I'm doing another picture with Aaron. I'm very, very excited about it. We're going to Kentucky to make a contemporary film, which is about a subject matter I haven't been involved with before. It's got some good action in it, but more importantly, it's a phenomenal character piece and some great writing. So I'm very excited about doing that. We're leaving for that in a couple of weeks, and he's been involved in the script process of that, which is wonderful, collaborating with someone similar to how I did with Scott and with Olga. And when when you have a partner playing the lead in your movie, and you're, you know, the plot and the script become this sort of, you know, thing that you're as intimate as they are with, it's really exciting. You know, it's when you start to make movies, and you're there. You're not just telling people what to do, and sort of, you know, you're all involved in this organic, you know, thing that is growing in front of your eyes, and it's exciting. It's fun. So I'm doing one of those with him, and then I started a company with another producer. We have 3 films on slate, and those are big, much bigger budget action pictures, which air towards the fun and the semi-comedic but enormous set pieces. And I realized this is what I've been dreaming of and dying to do for the longest time, but I needed a body of work behind me that would validate the kind of names that we need to attach to those ones. And they're very fun. So those are also being prepped and developed as we speak, and cast. And
Will these be sort of more A-list? With
yes,
like,
yeah,
yeah,
A minus. I'm going to try and bring all of these guys that I've worked with that I love, like Scott and Marco and Olga and Aaron, all these guys to the table, because they're all so wonderful. But yes, primarily the first and second leads have to be of a particular level that generates the, you know, the assurances needed by investors to, you know, to put 3 or 4 times as much budget behind my movies as I've enjoyed in the past. But it's all coming together. It's fruition. And if you look at my business, my you know, my movies as a business on paper, and you look at the budgets and the cumulative and all that kind of stuff, it's a beautifully steadily rising chart. And I have to keep reminding myself when you wake up in a panic saying, where, what am I doing? You look back and you realize, no, this is good. It's a really solid path. It's going upwards. It's not the meteoric rise of some of the, you know, the directors of whose work I adore. But then you look closely at their lives and you realize, no, it was the similar kind of path. You know, it's an interesting business. They talk about overnight successes, but really it's 10 years, decades in the making. You know, and
somewhere else. So we're actually going to get like the big budget Jesse
yeah,
Johnson movie.
yeah. Well, you know, I don't aspire to the 100 millions and the 50 millions and that kind of thing. That's kind of a fantasy thing that you hope will come. But I know what I can do with 8 to 10 million will look like a 40 to 50 million dollar, you know, work in another person's hands. And I know if I can make money in the 8 to 10 million dollar range, the sky's the limit. You know, or you live in the 8 to 10 million dollar range, and this is wonderful, and I can do that. In the past, I've been living in the in the area where, you know, you're walking a fine tightrope walk between actually delivering a film that's watchable and doing something fantastic, you know. So it's, you know, it's exciting. The future is very exciting, and I'm living it, which is which is great as well.
Now maybe we'll get to see you direct Keanu Reeves next. I'm telling you.
Maybe. I mean, you know, the interesting thing is that, you know, the you got to look even younger. You know, you got to look at the stars that are in their 20s and 30s. That's where the A list is, and where we're thinking now. A lot of these guys that we loved are now in their 50s and even bordering on their 60s. But, you know, we have to look at this next group that's coming up, because that's where the A list of tomorrow is. And, you know, and you have to be thinking not in months ahead, but in, you know, 5 years ahead. Where is the world going to be? You know, it's a shame, because obviously a lot of these actors that I love and really want to work with, but they're too old to maintain a, you know, an A-list release. Keanu is one of the exceptions because of how phenomenally fit he's kept himself, but also Aaron has as well. Aaron has kept himself in fantastic shape and is as strong as anyone I've ever worked with. He was, you know, we did a scene in this where he's sprinting behind the camera, and I mean, you know, by the end of it, the Steadicam operator was asking for a reprieve. You know, let's I'm running, but I stopped running with him a couple of takes back, but he's still there, ready to go. Let's do the next one. Let's do the next one. You know, so I'm hoping to keep working with Aaron and keep pumping his value back up to where it was and beyond, and my own as well. You know, completely transparently riding on his coattails. You know, I don't mind admitting that in the slightest.
I completely loved Chief of Station. It was everything I was sort of hoping for. From yourself anyway, you never fail to deliver an action movie, and it's good to see you team up with Aaron, especially as he's on a streak at the minute. He had Muzzle, he had the Bricklayer, and then he had the bare knuckle one, Rumble Through the Dark.
I liked him. I thought I thought he was the one true north in all of those films. Really, really did great. He loved working with Rennie Harlin, who did The Bricklayer. Was I worked with him as a stunt performer on Cutthroat Island. I have a huge amount of respect and admiration for him. So just the fact that I'm playing in the same league I know you mentioned earlier it's a slightly more B movie area, but just the fact that I'm playing in this league is making me a winner and a happy guy all along. So I just keep throwing the best punches I can, and like a prize fighter, you're not going to knock them out every single time. But if you can win on points a few times and keep the fans happy, you're going to get another fight. And if you can display enough prowess and sort of interest, you'll get a shot at that title eventually. And that's we have to maintain that hope. And I love working with Aaron. I'm so pleased you enjoyed it, and thank you very much for your support, Jeff. Really, and sorry it took so long to make this one happen.
No worries at all, man. I'm just glad I got you on. And just on the note of the B movie thing, most of the movies I own are B movies. That's my gravy. That's what I go to.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. The films I watch, people say, "Have you seen this and this and this?" And they the name off the A movies that everyone talks about, Oppenheimer or Barbie, or when that particular moment came. But the truth of the matter is, my stack of DVDs and the movies I watch are indie movies or B movies from the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s. Ones that had something different to say, where the essence of the director and the lead actor and the writer was less diluted by a group of development executives, where there was more personality to be had. I watch a lot of these big movies, and they're ticking boxes, and it's I look around the audience, people really enjoying this. It's literally, and I don't want to mention any names, but they often involve superheroes,
Yeah.
and you're like, you could not differentiate one director. There's 20 films or so here, maybe more, and you could not look at one of those films and name who the director was any differently to the others. And it's like, am I the only person who's seeing this? Is everyone else drinking some form of Kool-Aid? The artistic form of that we all grew up with loving, of cinema, where you watch a Peckinpah film and you instantly know when the action's happening is Peckinpah, or myriad others. Frankenheimer, you can see his thumbprint on it, or even more recently with Christopher Nolan, or you can tell who made the film.
Yeah.
But when you watch those ones, it's like you're watching film by committee. You're basically watching a TV show that's been developed by a showrunner in the form of a feature, which is not what I love, and there's nothing for me to take away from that. It's
No
and
personality to it.
exactly 100%, no personality at all. And it's interesting. So yes, I'm the same as you. I love the genre, and they did say in the old days the best A movies were simply B movies with an A movie budget.
Yeah, exactly. I
So,
couldn't agree with you more. I really appreciate your time today, though, Jesse. And giving up a Sunday as well. I really appreciate that.
thank you very much, and I hope your wife gets to finish Fallout. We watched it here and we loved it.
Yeah, we're only starting it. That's how far behind we are. I'm just
On the
listening.
first episode, I'm like, we've got to get Walton Goggins. He's so good. He's so good. And by the end of it, I'm like, we're never going to get Walton Goggins. It's going to be so hot by the end of this. And sure enough, he's meteoric now, and people are realizing how fantastic. But a guy who came through B movie supporting roles in B movies and just clawed his way up, and then you see what he's really capable of. This is the kind of story I love.
Can't wait to dive
We
into
can do that with Aaron, and between this film, the next film that I do with him, and others he's going to do with that, you'll see, he'll return to this status that we like. It's a tricky game out here. It's not easy at all. Everyone needs to pay bills, and I get it. So, but it's I'm so glad you enjoyed this one, and hopefully there's a step in the right direction for all of us.
it. And I look forward to the next. You and Aaron again. Couldn't beat it.
Thank you very much, Jeff. Really appreciate it, man.
No worries. Thanks for your time, Jesse. I really appreciate it.
Likewise. Have a great Sunday evening.
Bye.
Bye.